Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Leo, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for Aries season. I hope you're well. I'm using the 777 deck for you today. I really love this deck. So, things to tell you. There will be an extended at the end of this reading. If you would like to access that, you can do that via the links in the description box below. One of the links will take you to Selfie if you just want the standalone video for this. If you want access to all of the extended content for all of the signs, plus the weekly energy readings that I do, access to the Deck and Walk, which we're doing at the moment. We're like second card into a 36 card, year-long tarot exploration. You can do that, and if you join at the higher tier you can come participate in the live classes that we run over there too. So if that sounds like it might be of interest to you, you know what to do with the second link, which takes you to my private community, if I haven't already said that. Anyway, Leo, I have called these readings Crossing the Rubicon because truly I think we're going to be in a different world by the time we enter Taurus season, and I don't think I'm engaging in hyperbole to say that. I don't, actually. I really, really don't. So, with that in mind, let's flip the camera around here and have a look at the cards for you. We're going to pull 3 cards for where you are right now, which I think, honestly, is the most important question you could be asking yourself. Remaining present being something that I think is going to slip through our fingers over the course of this season. And then, in honour of the second decan of Aries that we're in, when we're talking about things like embodiment, which is such an important thing for this year, we're going to have a look and see, you know, what is it that we are supposed to be embodying at this point? What are we dealing with around that sort of area? And then finally, we'll finish up with what is the next step, because that after where are you is the most important question. So the second important question. In the extended, we'll delve a little bit deeper into whatever may come up here, or we'll simply ask what you need to know until the cards come out on the table. Don't know which way around it will be. So let's have a look and ask, where is Leo right now? 9 of Swords in reverse. That's not a bad place to be. It's not a bad place to be. Got an absolute cluster of cards here. So we've got the 2 of Wands, we've got the King of Cups, and we've got the 2 of Pentacles, which is very interesting indeed, actually. King of Cups is Scorpio energy. Not that I think that's particularly relevant right now, but it's giving me an indication as to what you might be dealing with. And we have the 3 of Pentacles on the other side, and that's really nuanced. I like that, Leo. Okay, so tell me about the embodiment aspect of things. So we have the Temperance card. I like that very much. We've got the 2 of Cups. We've got a cat. Oh, shit. I've got 2 cards. Hang on. We've got the 8 of Pentacles and the Knight of Wands have both shown up here. Oh. Hi, Cake. You were there and now you're over there. Hi. You can come up here if you want to. But you've got to be quiet. Nobody wants to hear you. I'm sorry. No. Okay. Cake. Come on. So, the next step for Leo. Let's have a look. Sorry, I'm trying to create arm space for the cat to come jump up here. Okay. We have the Tower and we have the 2 of Swords. Don't panic about that. Come on then. Page of Pentacles and one last card for Leo. Next step, please. 4 of Wands. I like this because certainly the last third of Aries season is represented by the 4 of Wands in the decans anyway, the way the decans relate to the tarot. So, look, I'm not going to beat around the bush, Leo. I think what we need to expect is that things are going to get very difficult. Now, whether this is on the run-up, as it might be, the run-up to the South Node entering your sign, which it will do round about July, around about the same time that Jupiter's going to enter your sign. Hello. And South Node transits are tiring. They're tiring. It's about balancing out an awful lot of things and letting a lot of things go. And potentially Jupiter may well, he might cushion that a little bit, or he may expand the experience. I don't know. So, we could see this as part of a run up to that. But I think it's important to note that there is something really quite major happening here. And although there is an indication that certainly as far as the next step goes, there's some external considerations, it is deeply internal what is happening to you right now. I just want to add, I am deeply allergic to this cat, and I think they come out in hives wherever he rubs himself on me. So if I start swelling up and looking funny by the end of the reading, that's why. Sweetheart, just sit down. Thank you. Why do I say deeply internal? Right, well, we have 3 twos on the table. We have the 2 of Wands, we have the 2 of Pentacles, and we have the 2 of Cups. We've got the King of Cups here, representing Scorpio. So things deeply felt, and a place of deep feeling that we move from. Because the king of any suit is about the active expression of that energy, right? So there's this trifecta of twos that are all, encircling this King of Cups. It does talk about emotional maturation as well, but I think when we get our emotions straight about something, like the actions that follow, the thoughts that follow, tend to be a lot cleaner than when our emotions are all over the place, right? So the fact that the 9 of Swords are showing up in the reverse is a really, really good start, because it's about perspective. In the upright, the 9 of Swords tends to suggest that there has been a loss of perspective somewhere, right? And we need to bring that back. The 9s are often about the management of whatever suit they represent. So in this case, it would be, how do you manage your mind, right? It's showing up in the reverse means you've kind of got a handle on what it's all about, and this is a good thing. But a bit like a caterpillar going into a chrysalis, there are things that are changing inside of you, and that emotional shift that has been enabled by you getting the right perspective on things. Is changing the way that you're choosing to show up and cooperate with others, right? You could interpret this as a kind of internal instability, but I feel like if it is, it's of the best sort, right? It's a loss of rigidity rather than a loss of structure. Being 2 slightly different things here. It's about peeling away the things that don't really need to come with you moving forwards, whether those are, emotional things, mental perspectives, even the way that you see the world, right? There's a lot that's changing internally right now. And that 3 of Pentacles it actually feels quite humble, Leo. It's humble in the humility in the face of it all, We've got the Page of Cups at the bottom of the deck there, and it is like there's a recognition of a journey that one is on at the moment, and it is emotional in nature. And Leo is a fire sign, and one might say even in Aries season right now, right? In years gone by, we might have seen or perceived Leo making quite a lot of noise about the state of play, right? And I'm not really getting that from you. There's a very, very quiet energy here. And perhaps it is because you're aware that so many things are changing internally. And with this 3 of Pentacles, it's like there's an emphasis on that collaborative aspect. And the precondition for the collaboration is understanding where there are aspects of you that are not collaborative, right? That maybe need some shifting and changing and honing around. There's a feeling of responsibility here, but it's the responsibility of showing up right and showing up true versus showing up loud, I think that's the way that I want to put it, Leo, right? So perspective is correct, kind of seeing things the way that they're supposed to be. But like I said, maybe that is just simply the fact that everything is changing and you yourself are changing too. So there's no rush to go out in any particular direction. There's no rush to make a noise. There's no rush to assert yourself over anything. It's just vibing in a space of contemplation and self-work, of growth. Like, we talk about the Two of Wands sometimes as a crossroads energy, right? I don't actually get that impression from the 777 here. It feels more like a point of arrival. I don't know. I watched recently a series that was set in Montana, and you know, that kind of feeling of a settler arriving at a place and knowing that there's an awful lot of work to do, kind of planning it out a little bit. There's no decision about going left or right. There's simply the how this happens, right? We know what's got to happen, but how does it happen? What's the order that it happens in? And what are the needs that we need to attend to along the way? The Two of Wands has got that kind of quality about it for me, for you. And then the Two of Pentacles is the balance of resources, time, care, attention, money, love, all of that sort of thing. Am I coping? Am I thriving? Or am I just surviving? You know, between the two of these cards here, there's this really fine-tuning of balance and a huge energy of acceptance, even if it is uncomfortable. Why? For the greater good. Now, whether this, you know, whether the Three of Pentacles here is indicative of you and your relationships with your family, or you and your relationships with friends, or your wider community, or something like that, or even, I'll be honest, even on the scale of humanity itself, right? There's a recognition that the internal changes will lead to later stability, later cooperative ability. I just want to pull out another card here at this point. It doesn't feel beaten down. It doesn't feel weary and resigned. It feels like the energy of somebody who knows that this is a long road. Three of Pentacles, please. Three of Pentacles here. Three of Cups reversed on the High Priestess. That's really subtle, Leo. It's really, really subtle. I can feel my face and my neck starting to itch. Mate, stop. And it's subtle because the Three of Cups for me is about emotional support networks. It's how we actively support each other, right? But to some extent it is, mate, too much. It is also about how we support other people. I said this is really weird balance between the idea that you yourself must change to show up as the best version of yourself, and simultaneously there's not really any support that you can expect in the process of that. And that's okay, because there's a question around how much support you actually allow in the first place, Leo. You know, the big shift here seems to be around the definitely around perspective and definitely about emotional drive. But the extent to which you are even capable of participating in a truly cooperative situation. Now, quite often Leo likes to take charge, right? Leo likes to get out in front of situations. Leo is to some extent about the perpetuation of a normal state of affairs. And Leo is very good at picking up the slack in other people and in situations, in circumstances, all sorts of things, and going, okay, well, in order to keep moving forwards, we do this, right? Leos are natural leaders and all that kind of thing. But it's the question of your approach to all of this that seems to be shifting and changing. Now, it might feel a little bit like a crisis of confidence, but it's sort of less dramatic than that. It's almost more like, I don't have anything useful to say right now, so I'm going to choose to say nothing. Like a recognition of, I have lots to give, but until I've worked out where it all sits within me, till I've ordered it all correctly and allowed the energy to flow a little bit more cleanly, and whatever I give may end up being either taken back or undeliverable. Because there's something here about the ability to exchange that is really strong, Leo. And it's your humility in the face of it that I find really interesting. Now, this point, notwithstanding the South Node transit that we've got starting for 18 months from July, plus Jupiter going into Leo, do we also need to consider the fact that Pluto may be doing something really quite strong here with your placements in Leo? Because at least by house, anything that you have in Leo is being opposed by Pluto. The exact degree, he's sitting at about 5 degrees or so now, right? So consider like a 5-degree orb of effect either side. If you've got anything in Leo between 0 and 10 degrees, you're feeling this energy right now. And even if it's later on than that, you can probably feel something starting to shift in anticipation of the opposition. It feels like there's really deep changes going on, and a really strong awareness of that too. So when we come into... No. When we start looking towards embodiment and where the energies are best placed, we see the Temperance card, the Two of Cups, the Knight of Wands, and the Eight of Pentacles. And the Eight of Pentacles shows us that the deep work is here. I'm going to pause this a second. Let me go evict cake from my room. I will be right back. Thank you for your patience. I also just took some antihistamine so that my face doesn't swell up ridiculously while I'm talking to you. The deep work here is in remaining present. The Eight of Pentacles is, like all of the cards numbered 8, a card that talks about how we can how we can express our power in the strongest possible way, right? Knight of Wands is here. Knight of Wands is very creative. Potentially sometimes the Knight of Wands is a little bit destructive as well. But the ability to remain entirely fucking present and spin on a sixpence actually is part of the Knight of Wands' most spectacular characteristics. He can do this better than any other sign in the zodiac, and I've spoken with many Leos recently about the difficulty in changing direction, the difficulty in letting things go, the difficulty in being able to pivot, right? Because it's not really what we're built for. It's not at all what we're built for. We are about the perpetual summer, right? Trying to keep things up and keep them more or less normal and the same. So it's always about a return to normality. I think this is something, this is kind of a fixed sign quality as well. It's like when fixed signs get ill. It's something that I've noticed. rather than dealing with the underlying issue. They will simply load themselves up with whatever they need to get themselves back to a point where they can start doing what they were doing before. It's a really interesting phenomenon. I've witnessed it with a lot of fixed signs. And this change of approach is not something that comes naturally. Change of direction, change of ways of doing things, thinking about things, feeling about things. It doesn't come naturally to fixed signs. And so the reclamation of power is in learning to develop this more strongly, right? To embody this more strongly. There's a kind of fluidity that this represents, which is perfect because we don't need rigidity in 2026. This is not going to do us any favours at all, being rigid. We have to kind of flow a little bit more. And because it's not something that comes naturally, this is something that we have to work through, work with the whole time, right? Now, consider, if you will, we've got another Sagittarian card over here, Temperance, actually representing Jupiter, but Sagittarius by extension, right? Where we have an energy representing healing and balance and equilibrium, how we heal ourselves, how we conquer what is difficult within ourselves and come to a point of balance thereafter. Right? Focusing on keeping ourselves balanced is really, really important, but doing it simultaneously with remaining very present and trying to keep bringing ourselves back to the present moment, not straying into the past, not hypothesizing about what the future may bring, but this very moment here, right now, right? But there's something else quite interesting happening here, because we talk about the Temperance card showing an angel who is filling her own cup, right? And that's one of the ways that we interpret this card. You've got to learn to fill your own cup instead of trying to fill everybody else's first. And then we have the Two of Cups, which feels like it's bringing all things numbered 3 down to this kind of, we have to go back to basics. So this now becomes the trifecta of 2 cards, where it's not only what's going on internally, but how we choose to share that, right? The level of intimacy that we will tolerate, the level of exposure, if you will, that we will tolerate. Certainly vulnerability and all that kind of thing. It's asking us to go deep with ourselves, but also go deep with what we will allow other people to access. Now, that makes a lot of sense to me, given what we've been talking about up here. You know, I can't remember when I was talking about it. I don't know if it was 25 or 2024. But I was talking about, you know, the sun to some extent representing the orthodoxy, right? All things circuit around the sun. And in the normal way that life progresses, you know, in orthodox states, then the sun is in the middle and everything goes around it. Now we've got a spectacularly heavy weighting of Pluto in Aquarius, pulling on the other end of the zodiac. It's a dominant energy. It's throwing everything up in the air. There's a period of evolution that Leo is going to have to go through before it can get to a point where it's ready to establish a new orthodoxy, right? And that point is never going to be overseeing a transition. It just never will be. I mean, it can't. It's not what you're built for, right? So as Pluto in Aquarius is tearing everything up and making everything feel chaotic, Aquarius representing certainly a less orthodox, if not truly unorthodox position, then these questions of how we show up for ourselves and how we show up for others really do end up being paramount. You know, we've got 2 water cards underpinning what is on the table. And right in the centre of the reading here is this Two of Cups. We've got the Three of Cups as well. We've got the King of Cups. Although Temperance is fire energy, there's always water on the card somewhere, right? It's the balancing between the elements. But what's quite interesting in this 777, I'm just going to hold it up so you can see it. If the camera will focus. Will it focus? Doesn't want to focus. Okay. Well, you might just have to take my word for it. Is rather than filling her own cup, what she's actually doing is pouring into lots of others. And here's the thing, Leo. It feels like part of what you're being asked to embody, is that Sagittarius energy, that Temperance energy of this is how we fill our own cup. And honestly, I think as things stand, you don't know how to do it, Leo. I think as the layers of the onion have been getting peeled away over the last couple of years, you're starting to realise that you've got literally no idea how to do this. It's almost like everything that you are is oriented towards other people. It makes sense, right? You're the fucking sun. But the extent to which it needles into everything, I think is something that you've not really considered before. So then the question becomes after that, how authentically can you show up if what is truly you is always hidden? If like the part of you that shows up is the part that you think everybody will want to see. And even if it's not things that you think people will want to see, you know, to what extent that is performative? Because there's probably some trauma behind there somewhere. You know, I expect everybody to hate me, so I'm going to, you know, act as if that's what I expect and what I want. No, it's a little over the top. But let's say, for example, you have issues around doing what everybody else does. Maybe you take a contrarian perspective on everything, regardless of whether it's accurate or not. You know, there's lots of different ways that this could show up, but what I'm seeing here is a really deep shaping and moulding, maybe a little bit of trimming going on internally in this pursuit for who you actually are. And to refer back to this Pluto transit that is opposing you by house, I mean, that's not a quick transit. People in my community who are experiencing Pluto opposing major placements that they have, you know, Sun, Moon, Mercury. And these transits take, you know, 18 months plus to move through. And every aspect of it is kind of uncomfortable. But there's a surrender to the discomfort. And there's a surrender to the need for the need for the time. You know, you're unpicking some deep conditioning here, Leo. Really deep. And so the embodiment is just more of what you have been doing. You're not asked to show up. You're not asked to perform. To some extent, you're being asked to just allow this energy to do its work and remain a present witness to it while it's happening. It's a question of working on your closest relationships rather than those that are more expansive. Find those points of connection with people that you really care about rather than feeling the need to show up for a crowd, you know? So when we look at what the next step is, I think this is very interesting, Leo, because this tower here is a redirection, and it's a redirection we don't see coming. Now, part of the essence of the tower is that we don't usually see it coming, although in retrospect, when we look back, we will recognize that they were signs, right? So there's a double expression of the ambush of this energy, right? But if we are to take what we've already talked about the nature of the twos and how it's all surrounding this here, then, you know, we've got this fourth two showing up. It's saying that all of the energy is being, is circulating around your internal state. We've talked about these 3 twos already, but this is your blind spot. This is what you don't know that you don't know. And the tower here feels like it's coming for a sudden shake-up to show you what you didn't know that you didn't know. And with the Page of Pentacles there, which is a wonderful card, I think, to follow this up, there's a sudden realization of value and values. Now, whether that is for you personally, or whether that is, you know, what you stand for, what you consider to be important, there's a reshuffling around of priorities that's happening here. We can't fight the tower, nor should we really seek to. That's one way of absolutely guaranteeing suffering. Take it from someone who's done it. But if we can accept the proposition that there are things that we don't know that we don't know, things that we can't see about ourselves, about everybody else, about whatever, right? If we can accept that as a proposition, then it makes the, you know, whatever the tower throws up a little easier to navigate. In terms of the next step, it's almost like expect the unexpected. Expect to get ambushed by something. Expect that ambush to show you something about yourself that you did not see before, or show you something about the world that you did not see before, with the express intention of helping you see things clearly, in terms of value, in terms of investment, in terms of what should be a priority for you. If you have been feeling lost recently, A, you are not alone. And B, it's part of the process. You know, if we were to take the analogy of the caterpillar turning into the butterfly and the you know, the length of time that takes, there has to be a point at somewhere in that process. And I don't know where it would be, where the self that is the caterpillar begins to dissolve and the self that is the butterfly begins to emerge, right? In terms of consciousness. And this consciousness shift that's happening here requires from you, in terms of participation, a willingness to stick with it. Right? Don't get frustrated with yourself. Don't expect this to be over quickly. Don't want it tomorrow or want it yesterday, right? This is about a patient sitting with. And if the piece of the puzzle that's been missing, part of the contributory factor for you that has added to you feeling lost, is a not knowing where your priorities should be, or not knowing necessarily what you stand for, or not knowing necessarily, you know, what you have to invest. I think a lot of Leos are extremely oblivious to their own value. And that comes back to that kind of performative thing there. They know what they think they should be giving. Maybe for some Leos, they are also aware of what they should not be giving, right? Because it's too much, it's too extra, and, you know, fuck off with your attention-seeking, you know, kind of energy. We see that happening with both Leos there. But what is uniquely you and yours and valuable, I think Leo's never really had a handle on that at all. Because it can't perceive itself. It can only perceive what everybody else reflects back to it. And I think this is changing. It's changing dramatically, actually, because the willingness to listen to the universe, which is what I'm seeing here, right? Humility in the face of the universe, means that whatever this tower is, as it hits, it's changing the way that you think, and it's changing it dramatically, and it's giving you access to this sense of value, this sense of what is worthy of investing in, what is worthy of investing, full stop. It's getting your priorities straight. And then we have the Four of Wands. And this is the creation of a new foundation. If we can consider everything that's happening here as the dissolution of the caterpillar, as the unpicking of the conditioning, then here is a point that we are getting to where we feel like we're starting to get a better handle, maybe even on our own creative self-expression. It's a solid foundation for a fire sign to move from. And I think what's showing up here is how little access you've had to this concept of the Four of Wands in its fullest expanded state. And that feels remarkable. Feels remarkable that you should have gone so long without making contact with that. So whatever happens here is to be welcomed for the longer term benefit. I think that you are much better set up to accept the concept of a longer term benefit than you have been ever before. Because the underlying fear of not showing up, not delivering, you know, all these sorts of things, not performing, you know, whatever it is starting, you know, micro layer by micro layer to be sanded off. This desire to find the wood that sits beneath. Do you know what I mean, Leo? It's interesting. All right, I'm going to leave it here and I'm going to go to the extended. We're going to dig into this a little bit more. Obviously, I don't think it's a good idea for a tower to come up and us just not pay attention to it. So we're going to be digging into that, bearing in mind what we've already said about all of these cards here, because this feels like a staging for this. We're going to dig into what that tower is about there and look into it a little bit more and see how it goes, right? Next step, next step, next step. Just get a little bit more detail about that. So if you would like to join me over there, you're very welcome to do so. You can do that on Selfie, you can do that on Circle. I'd be delighted to see you in either place. Yeah. Doesn't feel flary, doesn't feel dramatic, but it feels like it's moving towards a kind of internal stability. And dare I say it, even sovereignty, Leo. All right. So know that I love you all very, very much. I'll see you soon.